I'm very interested to see if the former president can kind of pivot his message to talk about those real world kitchen table issues that American families are dealing with, or whether he'll be stuck in kind of talking about the 2020 election and what he thinks went wrong.
Is there a concern within the party, or should there be a concern within the party, that actually Trump might energize a percentage, but that percentage won't quite be big enough?
Well, look, I think he starts with a built-in level of support, a floor, if you will, which is higher than anyone else's floor. So when you look at the primary, it is going to be, I think, heavily contested. But he starts out as the favorite. He's got probably about 40% of the electorate that is going to be with him. And when you go into a multi-candidate race and you start with 40% as your floor, that's not a bad place to be. Having said that, the nomination isn't just going to be handed to him. He's going to have to work hard for it. There are other Republicans who are looking very, very closely at this race. And so I expect that it will be competitive. But again, in races that I've worked on with multiple candidates, if you start out with 40% of the vote locked in, it certainly gives you an advantage. But by no means is it going to be given to him.
How much is the party, though, concerned about his fact he didn't accept the last election? There's the insurrection on January 6th. There's still whispers around prosecutions of Donald Trump. Does the Republican Party want that grief? Does it want to be running a president candidate with all of that baggage?
I think that the battle lines were drawn shortly after January 6th, and Republicans were mostly focused on the Biden presidency, some of the excessive spending, inflation, gas prices, et cetera. So when you talk to Republican voters, when you talk to Republican leaders, there's not a whole lot of discussion of January 6th. There's not a whole lot of discussion of the last election. I'm very interested to see if the former president can pivot to talk about a vision for 2024 and beyond, what matters to American families. Again, people are paying a lot for gas.
Yeah.
People are paying a huge amount for groceries, and there's a lot of concern with the direction that our economy is going here in the United States. So I'm very interested to see if the former president can kind of pivot his message to talk about those real world kitchen table issues that American families are dealing with, or whether he'll be stuck in kind of talking about the 2020 election and what he thinks went wrong.
And that's an interesting question. Do you think he's a serious enough candidate? These are serious times. You know, we just talked about the war in Ukraine and the need for careful diplomacy. He's not a careful diplomat. I don't think anyone would ever accuse him of being that. These huge economic challenges. Do you feel the Republican Party might need a serious candidate rather than someone who gets distracted on style over substance?
Well, look, campaigns are hard work. Campaigns are tightly fought. We're in a country that is very deeply divided, and Donald Trump won the election in 2016. He came very close, I think a lot closer than people were expecting in 2020. So I think people who write him off do so at their own peril. I think that, again, I don't think that he's guaranteed the nomination by any stretch, but I do think that he's proven that he has a very, very good pulse, good finger on the pulse of where certainly Republican primary voters are. And again, he won one election that no one expected him to win. He came very close in 2020. And so I'm like a lot of people, I'm not affiliated with any candidate at this point. So I'm just fascinated to see how this 2024 primary plays out.
And if he does get the nomination and you had $10 to bet, Trump versus Biden redux, would you bet it on Trump?
In early November of 2016, I swore off political predictions forever. I'm out of the prediction business, but I will tell you that it's going to be a heck of a show.